So RFK is out, and I get the sense that a lot of us felt that this was probably going to happen at some point with where poll numbers were heading for Mr. Kennedy, but I felt like I wanted to come on and quickly comment on it before we get the wave of polling that comes out this week in the aftermath of the collapse of the Kennedy campaign. So if you didn't hear, RFK Jr., I'll probably call him RFK throughout this video just for the simplicity's sake of it, he dropped out recently and endorsed Donald Trump, which a lot of people were a little bit surprised by, I suppose. I mean, like, as recently as a month ago, he was calling Trump a scam artist who screwed over the American people. So it's quite a change of tune. But we did see warning signs, as it were. Apparently, he was reaching out to the Harris campaign and the Trump campaign to try and exchange an endorsement for a job. And it seems that the Harris campaign just did not at all respond to any of his attempts to reach out, and he decided to give the Democrats one last jab at the end of his candidacy. If you didn't follow RFK's campaign too much, I don't blame you, but it seemed to be, at least from my perspective, that Kennedy's goal from the start was really to undermine Democrats in whatever way he could. And originally that started out as him running for a Democrat, trying to challenge Biden and make his way into the primaries when he really didn't get any traction there. And it was clear that Biden wouldn't face any real competition at all. He shifted to an independent candidate with the hopes, at least in my opinion, maybe of taking away some Democratic support with the Kennedy name. And that was really when he was at his zenith, when Joe Biden was utterly collapsing as a candidate, Trump was being Trump. There was a decent portion of the electorate, which is known now, or was, it's pretty much gone now, but the double hater. The double hater, if you haven't heard the term, pretty self-explanatory. The people that hated both Biden and Trump, and particularly after the debate in which Biden really collapsed as a candidate, that was a pretty significant section of the American public. I think it was like polled 20% of people did not like either candidate. And that was a pretty good political environment for Kennedy to be in as a third option there. But as soon as the Democrats really pulled Biden away and put Harris in, that was kind of the beginning of the death rattle for the Kennedy independent run. His support pretty quickly cut in half, like true nosedive, once Kamala became the candidate. And that is when Kamala really took the lead, overtook Trump. About half of Kennedy's support, the people that were disaffected Democrats, who were essentially given up on Joe Biden, really just came home. And at that point, Kennedy's like core tenet, as I believe it to be, which was undermining Democrats, didn't make any sense at this point. It was a candidacy that he was running, which was mainly appealing to anti-establishment voices, which otherwise would be people that would be supporting Donald Trump. So that is where we are now. Kennedy, realizing that, has effectively given up, at least in swing states, and is trying to get his name off ballots and trying to just run in like safe states so that he doesn't act as a spoiler. And I am developing some interesting thoughts as to how I think that's going to pan out. First of all, there is a lot of polling noise at the moment. We've just come out of the DNC, which I think might have been intentional as an attempt by Trump and Kennedy to sort of steal some spotlight from the Harris campaign in this moment. But there's a lot of noise at the moment. Kamala is enjoying like a post-DNC polling bump at the moment, which has her at her highest. I think she's approaching 49% in the polls, at least as in aggregates. So she's at her highest point right now. But Trump is also seeing a tick up from like the limited polling we have that has him going up maybe like 0.9, 1.1 maybe, in light of Kennedy being gone. We don't have enough polling to get it like concrete at the moment, but it seems like they're both on an uptick, and this is becoming much more of a traditional Democrat-Republican race with a lot less other considerations. I'm of the mind that there are positives and negatives that both campaigns can take away from Kennedy not being there. For the Republicans, I think the positive is people who were very anti-establishment, who opposed the idea of like the uni party, people that were going to go to RFK are probably going to come home to the Republican side of politics now, and that will probably be a boost. In terms of a negative, RFK did have a reputation towards the end of his campaign of being weird, which is exactly the type of characterization Republicans are trying to get away from. So when the guy who had brain parasites hit a bear in Central Park, among a litany of other odd behaviors, suddenly endorses your guy, that could maybe be spun as like leaning into the weirdness that your campaign is trying to avoid. For the Democrats, there might be a small portion of what was RFK's base coming back to their side, but I feel like the real big takeaway for them is that Kennedy made this decision too late to get off the ballot in North Carolina and in Wisconsin, I believe. And that is pretty crucial because if his supporters still ardently want to back him, and there is a small portion of people that would vote Republican, but instead decide to vote for RFK in those two crucial swing states, that could play a role. In North Carolina at the moment, the Democrats and the Republicans are polling about even, which is, alarm bells for the Republican side of politics. So the idea that there's an extra variable in there that could hurt conservative anti-establishment style politicians like Trump, probably not something the Republicans want on their plate, and maybe good news for Democrats. So those are the basic points. We're going to see boosts for both campaigns, and we're going to be back to this more traditional sort of two-horse race. And of course, I'm not saying the two-party system is a good thing, but it will make this race a lot clearer to look at once we see what things look like with a lot less background noise, third-party candidates. Jill Stein and Cornel West are also falling off into like the sub-single-digit polling at this point. So I'm going to be fascinated to see what this race actually looks like when it is just Kamala and Trump side by side, and how their campaigns appeal to people more broadly without these other considerations and possibilities.